Coming up on iOS today, Rosemary Orchard and I talk about apps that will help you learn new things. Now, this isn't coding. This is all sorts of other skills and fun things you can learn. So stay tuned.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This podcast is supported by AT&T Active Armor. We rely so much on our phones these days and are always on them, whether it's live streaming content, catching up with family on weekly video calls, or watching your favorite podcast. There's no room for fraud calls. Thankfully, AT&T makes customer security a priority, helping block those pesky calls. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor, 24/7 proactive network security and fraud call blocking to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. Wow, howdy bowdy. Welcome back, or welcome to iOS Today if this is your first episode. If it is, welcome. Please remember to grab a membership packet on your way in, and don't forget to have your parking validated on the way out. This is iOS Today, the show where we cover all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, iPadOS, HomePodOS, all the OSs all the time here on iOS Today. And I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent.
And I'm your other host, Rosemary Orchard. Please don't forget where the emergency exits are. And if you need a drink, just press pause.
And we'll make sure that you keep your seat back upright in the fastened position, or however that goes. Anyway, welcome to the show. Today we're talking nothing to do with the weird intro that I decided to go on, but Rosemary, I'm so glad that you joined me and played along. This episode, we were kind of struggling for what to do because we're just getting over that WWDC awesomeness. There was a lot of stuff that was announced, and we tried to cover as much of it as we could in the last episode. And so we are doing somewhat of a reset to normalcy. We'll come back to the WWDC stuff, especially as the public beta rolls out in the coming month and as changes happen over the course of the summer before the final version is released sometime in the fall. But for now, we want to get back to normalcy. And this time we're talking apps that can teach you things. And typically on this show, when we do apps that can teach you things, there's usually a coding app involved, or a coding app or two. So we purposely tried to avoid coding apps in talking about and picking the ones that we have for you today. So, Rosemary, tell us about your first app for learning things.
Well, I do just want to start with a little bit of a spoiler. So people who are watching the video feed will notice that behind me, there's some juggling balls. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a great app to learn juggling. I'm learning it from a colleague at work, actually. So we're doing that over video. But I do have plenty of other things. And one of the things that I love to do is learn and practice languages. So I studied languages at university. And now I just enjoy, speaking languages, reading in French and German predominantly, because it's just great fun and a great mental exercise for me. And so one of the things I've been doing is I've been going back and relearning some other languages that I had little teasers of back in the day. And one of those is Spanish. And I did pick Spanish because for this as well, because I know a lot of the people in the US and a lot of our listeners do speak Spanish or Portuguese. Portuguese is similar to Spanish, not the same. But I'm using Duolingo for this. So the way that Duolingo works is when you first set it up, you pick your language, and then you say whether or not you're learning it for the first time. And if you already know it, then you can answer some questions to help them find your level. Now, I do know a bit of Spanish, but for today, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to start from the beginning. And so to start with, it asks you some simple questions to, get the ball rolling, essentially. When it's showing you the answers, which if you're watching the video, then you'll be able to see my screen. I'm showing Duolingo. The question is, which of these is the boy? It's got three pictures here. There's a little, I presume boy. It's a child with blue and a little mohawk on his head. There's somebody who looks like a woman and a man with a beard. So I'm going to go with El Niño is the boy. And it's set that out to me now. I pressed it. Unfortunately, you can't hear that. And then when I select it, it tells me it's correct. And then I need to go ahead and choose the girl. Well, el niño was the boy, so la niña has got to be the girl. And you just progress through, but you collect points as you go. So if you want to compete with friends, then you can do that as well. And I actually got an email the other day from my account that I set up at university with one of my friends, and she has just passed me on that. So she's actually got more points than me, or she did, until I logged back in and got some more points. But as you go through, you'll see different kinds of exercises. So it won't always be picture cards like we're seeing at the moment. Instead, sometimes you'll get other options. And if you get 5 in a row, then the little birdie pops out. It's the Duolingo owl. He's green. And he says something nice. So one of the other examples of sentences is this, where I need to translate what it says. So it's el hombre, which is the man. And so I select the 2 words from the bottom and I select them in order, and then it puts them in my sentence, and then I tap check, and voila, it's correct. And so I can now repeat this. I've gone through, I've got 5. I did 5 in a row, so it changed question type. And now it's giving me a sentence with some words in that it hasn't introduced me to. And Micah, I can see you in the chat room. Voila is French. And it has an accent pointing backwards on the A. But fortunately for me, anyway, so the sentence it's come up with is yo soy una mujer. And it's saying tap on a word to see its meaning, because I don't know soy and una yet. Duolingo has not taught me this. Now, I do know this because I've studied Spanish before. So if I tap on it, then it tells me what it is. And it says am or I am. And then if I tap on una, it says a. So I'm going to go with I am a woman, which is indeed correct. And voila. And now it's asking, how do you say I am? And of course, in Spanish, this is a little bit trickier because you don't necessarily have to say yo in front of it. And so in this case, I select soy and voila. Now it's asking me to say that I am a man, so I can do that. And so on and so forth. So you get some different options of different kinds of questions. And what I like about this is it's incredibly portable. It pays off having AirPods or any other kind of headphone that you can connect to your device when you do this, because you get the audio as well as the wording, which really helps. So then you get to associate the sounds with the words. And I know especially for people who have not learned languages before, it's pronunciation is one of those things that can be incredibly tricky. And so having that built into the app is incredibly useful, just because it allows you to hear the difference between a s and a z, and you know then, okay, when I see this combination of letters, it's pronounced like this, and so on and so forth. Especially if you're learning German or Russian or Greek or something like that. Any language with a different alphabet is going to be a bit more mind-boggling than a language that uses the Latin alphabet. But I find Duolingo is incredibly good. I've used it from the lower levels all the way up to the higher levels, and I very much enjoy the challenge that it represents, the fact that it's a pretty UI. You can, compete with friends and things like that. You don't have to, though. You can just do this. You don't have to, sign up with an account or anything. If you do, though, then your progress is synced between devices. And I'm just going to answer a question from the chat room from James. And James would like to know, how many languages can I speak fluently? Well, I am English, James, but I also speak French and German fluently. I've studied quite a few more languages over the years, though, because that's what happens when you do a languages degree. They make you study all the languages.
Wow, that's awesome. So trilingual, my goodness. I am impressed. Now, I think Duolingo is one of is a pretty popular one, which speaks, I think, to the value that it provides. I've heard a lot of people talking about how they use Duolingo to learn new languages. And what you were talking about there, where it's this idea that you can kind of pick it up when you want to and use that to kind of interact with it. Somebody asked in the chat if it, because this is one of the things I don't know about Duolingo specifically. Some language learning apps will use sound recognition to some extent. Some of them are better than others, to try and determine if you were pronouncing things correctly. Is Duolingo all about tapping and selecting, or is there voice input with this app?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember if there is voice input. I've just progressed through a little bit, so I'll just share my screen again, because I'm now on yet another type of input, or type of question, which is typing what you hear. And this is asking me to type what I hear. Oh, I missed a word. And I lost a life. Darn it.
No.
I know, right? I got that wrong because I was trying to do that.
They should have I'm doing a podcast mode where you can say I'm a little distracted.
So if I tap and say end session, then it says that I'll lose my progress, and I don't want to lose my progress.
And the owl is so sad.
I know, he wants me to finish it, but I remember there is voice input on some courses, but I don't remember what languages there is voice input on. And I'm not entirely certain how it does this. I believe it might be using the Siri input, but the last time I came across the voice stuff was quite a long time ago. It can grade your responses. And somebody in the chat room Doug is saying that it depends on the specific language. Spanish and German both do that. So I think
it's not an easy feature to implement. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's not an easy feature to implement. And I think it is definitely only at the higher levels. You are going to want to do this for quite a long time before you get up to stuff. I don't think alone any one tool can ever get you to be completely and utterly fluent in a language. That's something that James is asking us in the chat room. I believe if you want to be fluent, you're going to need to take classes or talk to native speakers or do some kind of language exchange or something like that. Just apps are not going to get you all the way. They can teach you grammar and things like that, but they won't be able to teach you, casual slang and things like that. But it is incredibly helpful for tourist trips. It's free. You can get upgrades for plus parts of it. I've never ever paid for those, but I've used this in combination with some very old CDs that I checked out from the library, Michel Thomas, and between those they helped me pass some exams that I needed to do. So I was really pleased with those. Duolingo is great when I had a little bit of time between classes. I could just do a little bit, and then Michel Thomas was the walk to and from university to make sure that I got all the way up to speed on whatever language of the day it was.
Nice. All right, that is Duolingo, which is available for free in the App Store. A lot of folks in the chat are saying you can, as you said, you can upgrade, but it is not necessary to use the app. And as I had pointed out, I've got a lot of friends who use it and do it completely with a free version and are happy with that. So I'm not surprised. My first app that I'm talking about today is one called Kitchen Stories. It's technically called Kitchen Stories Recipes, but that's because it makes it easier for you to find and search. But the app is Kitchen Stories. And this is an app that's great for folks who've been cooking for a long time, who just want to try some recipes and see how folks make them. That's kind of updated constantly with new content. But what I love about this is if you are not super great in the kitchen in terms of your skills, or you want to brush up on skills or learn new skills. What does it mean to julienne a carrot? That kind of thing. This app is great for that. So let's scroll down here and we'll pick a recipe. There's a 5-ingredient sticky hoisin roasted broccoli wedges. I'll tap on that and you can see it says it takes about 40 minutes to make. On the side, it's got that classic paragraph of what you need to know about it. Although I have to say I'm thankful it's only a paragraph versus like an essay before you actually get to the recipe. You can read reviews that people have left about it, the difficulty of it. You can up or down the recipe. So if you want to make 4 servings or 5 servings, then it can help. You can create a shopping list very easily, and it has nutrition information per serving. So it's all right here for you to understand what to do. But then here's the part where you get to learn. So there are several how-to videos, and these, they pop them in, they populate them based on what you're making and what the recipe calls for. And then we'll go to those in a second, but I just want to show, here are the photos. So it has your steps with these great photographs showing you what you need to do. Very easy instructions to read. There's step 2 of brushing the sauce onto the broccoli. And then step 3 of adding some, I think those are sesame seeds, but it just has a very strange, yeah. Oh, is that German, Rosemary?
No, that... I mean, yeah, it says geschalt, which means what is it that I'm thinking of? The outside of a nut. You know, like a peanut. Yeah, whatever it is. Like that's
the
been
shell
removed.
or the husk?
The shell. That's the word. There we go. Of course,
gotcha.
schal. Yeah, geschalt, schalen. Shell. Yeah, sorry. It's like, I know exactly what it means, but sometimes with these things.
Right, to translate it is difficult.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
Great.
So before we go into I'll start cooking in a second, but now I want to show you the video. So there's how to chop green herbs, how to cut green onions, how to peel ginger. Let's watch that one. Maybe, you know, I think chopping green herbs is one of the more simple ones, but you might not know necessarily how to peel ginger. So let's tap on this. And can you hear this? So it's going through the process showing you how use the edge of a thin teaspoon to remove. See, this is already more, this is something that I'm learning because I've always used a really thin paring knife to take this skin off of ginger. And it looks like by using a teaspoon, you can scrape it a little bit easier to get that off of there, or using a peeler. But again, you might end up cutting a lot off. And then julienne, here you can see what that means. Julienne is the method of kind of turning them into little sticks. And I want you to pay attention here. I like that you can very clearly see that this is a person who knows what they're doing. I always pay attention to how someone's using their knife when they're, especially on television shows and things like that, when I'm sort of going, okay, they're supposed to be a chef or they're supposed to know what they're doing in the kitchen, but the way that they're holding their knife is incorrect. And the incorrect way of holding your knife is to grab it, and then people will typically put their index finger down over the top of the knife as they're cutting. And you should hold the knife back by the handle and then take your thumb and your pointer finger and sort of pinch the sides of the knife, because that gives you far more control. So you can see that that's what's happening here as this person goes through and juliennes the ginger. And so a little quick set of instructions showing you how to cut the ginger in this case, but most importantly, that first step of peeling it without wasting a lot of that ginger as you do peel it. Up next, there's a video on how to butterfly. What is this? Is this chicken? It might be pork, but how to butterfly meat in general. So it shows you, what you need to do to slice it and spread it and then tenderize it. All through. So I love this idea of learning how to properly prepare meat, and so or prepare food, especially given how in some of those meal kits that you get delivered or recipes that you find online, it'll be like, do this or do that. And you go, I don't really know what that means. So then you have to go look it up. There's a funny scene in Schitt's Creek, and I could say that because it's SCHITTS, in that show where somebody is talking about folding ingredients to make a recipe.
I just watched that episode recently. I've never seen the series before, and they were talking about folding in the ingredients and just fold it in. And I'm like, I actually do know what that means, but I even if I was reading a description of it, I'm sure I wouldn't necessarily recognize it. That saying a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, it definitely is, but a video can get so much more across so quickly if, assuming video is accessible for you.
Exactly.
But I love the fact that they've got, the steps written down here of what it is that you need to do as well, which just, makes it much better.
Yep. And then here, as I promised, by tapping on Start Cooking, then you can easily swipe through to see what you need to do. And what I love is that these timers, you can tap on them and actually start them and have them timed within the app. So you don't have to leave the app or interact with any other thing. You can do all of the timing and preparing right from within this app. And then it also shows you what each step requires with your ingredients. So you can make sure you have those for that. And I should say ingredients and tools that you'll need for each of these steps. And then once you're done, it gives you the option to take a photo of it if you want to and share it. So this is the free version of the app. There is a $4.99 a month subscription with some other options that will let you create cookbooks and add even more and kind of do more searches. And then there's the ability to upload your own recipes so that you can kind of be a part of this community if you'd like to be. There's a search function for learning how to do these. And then it also has kind of a recipe ingester, so you can add those third-party recipes to this app and use the built-in functionality that's available here to kind of learn more about how to do this. But again, I think the big thing here for you to really get into is even just tapping on one of these recipes. And so these are some tips, by the way. Some things that you like, 11 handy tools you'll want but don't need to make homemade pizza, and some tips about making a smoky sauce. But if we go back to the main page again and we tap on another recipe, then in this one, the how-to videos are how to make a homemade aromatic fruit jam and how to properly measure. That's another thing I see. Usually this isn't a mistake made in shows, but occasionally you'll see somebody use a liquid measure for dry ingredients and a dry measure for liquid ingredients. And that is always a no-no. So you can use this to understand how to properly measure ingredients and get them figured out for your recipe. So lots of great little tips and skills and tricks within Kitchen Stories Recipes, available in the App Store. Again, all of the stuff that I'm showing here has been free for you to watch and use, so you can make use of most of the app for free without that premium subscription. Alrighty, Rosemary, what is your next app?
Well, my next app is born out of the frustration that I type all of the time now, and therefore my handwriting is getting worse and worse and worse. And one of the things I used to love to do or fail at doing was calligraphy. And you know what? We have Apple Pencils. This is the older model Apple Pencil because I'm using my iPad mini for most of today's show because iPad OS beta is still not quite stable, people. It's not public beta yet either. So I'm using my iPad mini here, and I am using an app called Calligraphy Penmanship. Now, this is a free app, and you get like a 77-hour free trial or something like that. I don't remember. Or it might be a 7-hour or something. But either way, you can see my trail time in the bottom right-hand corner is going down if you're watching. Calligraphy Penmanship gives you a choice of 12 different kinds of letters that you can practice penning. There's also the options to do some other things, which I'll get to in a moment. But you start by picking a font set, essentially, or a way of writing characters. And then you select which character you want to practice. And then you can see how to do this. So you've got a little grid with the letter on it in gray. And then over on the left-hand side, you can see the full form of the letter once it's completed and what you need to do to start with, and then what you would do second. Now, if you swap things over at the top on the left-hand side, then you can also you can get a whole row of letters of that kind of letter to practice. And if you tap on the letter in the top left, then you can go back and select a different one. At the top, you can also choose from different kinds of pens and everything, which I will come back to in a second. So to start with, it's telling me that I need to go around and do the bottom of the A that I've got here. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to do this a little bit differently to what they're saying, just because that's how I would usually do an A, but it's probably going to be wrong. And you'll see at the end, it tells me, oh, no, you've not done that right. So now I'm going to try doing it the way that they tell me to, and still not right. So I will use a little bit of my creative judgment here, and voila, 83% correct. So you can see that I've not done particularly well here. And part of that is due to my pen settings. So if I go at the top, then I can adjust my pen settings. So I can change the pressure. So if I tap the pressure up to 100%, and then I tap, then you can see, whoa, that's pretty huge. And if I drag that all the way down to 0%, then, well, the pressure is not really doing anything, and I'm not going to do a very good job. So I've done some messing around, and I found around about 30% for me is a good pressure amount. And so I'm going to go ahead and go try and do this B now. And it's a combination of speed and also the amount of pressure that you use with your Apple Pencil. And you are going to want a stylus to do this. You'll find that something that allows you to do pressure is going to be best for this. And therefore, the Apple Pencil is a great option. And if you don't have one already and you're considering them, have a look in the refurb store at some point and see if you can find one there, because they are often much cheaper there. And it's worth getting, or you can pick them up on eBay as well. As you go through this app, you're going to see some letters need you to do the letter in two motions. So that wasn't great, but I'm going to make that work. There we go. So I've got a D. Now, I can also go through and pick different colors. So if I wanted to do, say, an E in purple, I could do that. Or if I tap into the pen settings, then I've got some further options. So if I swipe over to candy, then I can, pick different selections that I will use. There's also, however, the option to do gradients. And I don't know about you, Mikah, but I love gradients. And gradients really allow you to see what you've done at what time, because you can see what color is coming out of your pen when, which for this letter, not so important. Oops. Sorry, I tapped the home button there. But if I select an M, then you'll be able to see, I hope, what I'm doing and where I'm going over. Oh, I'll just set that back to the gradient. So if I go over here, then as I go over the parts that I've already done, then you can see where that overlaps. I'm actually going to try selecting a different gradient. That was the right one. And I'll do an N now, and hopefully you'll be able to see where I go over what I've already done. Now, of course, if you're doing this on paper, then you probably find it a little bit easier. And I will say doing this on glass is a bit frustrating at times. But at the same time, it's also quite fun. I'm just going to try doing this I, because there's a little trick that it took me a little while. I'm just going to increase the pressure just a tad, see if that makes it easier. It's one of those things where everybody's going to have to play and see, depending on how they use their Apple Pencil and how much pressure they put on it. But if I try and tap on the I, then I get a really small dot. But what happens if you put a fountain pen on paper and you hold it there? You get a little dot of ink that slowly expands. And then, so if you do that here, then you get a little dot that slowly expands and it fills the I, or the dot above the I, or the dot above the J, and things like that. So that is really useful. And you can go through, there's also settings where you can, for things to screen, you can toggle on and off palm detection. So there's a little area. If you've got a regular stylus, then you'll find this is quite useful because you can place your palm in this white area at the bottom. Sorry, I keep pressing the home button. But the good news is I'm now back here. So there's some other options as well. So there's a guide, which comes up when you first set up the app, which is, the basics, writing movements, what are you learning right now? So if you're looking at it and somebody's like, oh, what kind of script is this? Is this Spencerian or something like that? There's also how to practice, and it walks you through using the app. basically, which, is great. And there's letter models and so on. But as well as that, you can also play with the ornamental pen, and there we go. And it shows you all about that. And then, you can get in and basically just have fun. If you're doing what I'm doing, I'm not going to save that because that was pretty terrible. There's also just full page, where you just get a full page of grid paper, which is really nice for practicing writing. So if I want to, I'm going to try and undo that. I need to write a little bit slower. That's not coming out very well. That was me trying to write hello. I didn't do a very good job. So apparently I need to practice. But there's also there's some hand references, there's some bonus references, there's some patterns. And the best part about this app is it's free to download and spend loads of time in it. And I do mean loads of time. I mean, if you download it over a holiday weekend or something like that, I know some of you have got the day off today. You've unexpectedly been given the day off, which is wonderful. Congratulations if that's one of you. If you're over here in the UK, then there's a bank holiday weekend coming up at the end of August. Download it for a weekend and have some fun, learning calligraphy. It's great. And if you really enjoy it, then it's just $2.99 to unlock the rest of it. And that's a one-time in-app purchase. So I'm really pleased with this app. I've found it's really good fun. I've spent quite a bit of time in it since yesterday. And there's a companion book as well, as Doug in the chat room has just reminded me, called the Calligraphy Handbook. It's well worth it. And at $2.99, it's kind of difficult to go wrong if you've already got an iPad and an Apple Pencil. Make some more use of it.
Yeah, I think this is fantastic. I remember I think it was in middle school first and then later in high school, I used to just pick up a bunch of different hobbies, and one of them was calligraphy. And I have not played around with calligraphy in so long, and so I definitely downloaded this app. I think I'm going to pair it with one of those. There's a company called Paperlike, quite literally one word, Paperlike, and they are screen protectors for your iPad that give it more of a matte feel. So I'm thinking about ordering some Paperlike screen protectors, and then getting this app and practicing calligraphy again, because it's been so long. And I remember the sort of revelatory experience I had when I had learned enough to start to do it on my own. And as I was doing it and sort of writing these letters, especially as a left-handed person where a lot of the writing world is not made for me, to see myself making these beautiful letters was really just super cool. It was kind of like, that's coming out of my hands. That's so neat. So I itch for that again. I see. Captain Jack was pointing out that the Paper-like screens, something to be aware of is that they do change the quality of what you see off from the screen. So that's just something to be aware of. Luckily, I've got a smaller iPad that I can do the Paper-like with, especially with Quick Note in iOS 15. It'll be easier to carry that one around versus the bigger one, which is all for kind of show watching and stuff like that. So those can be separated.
Yeah. No. I do the same. I've got my iPad mini, which I tend to do handwritten notes and things like that on, and it sort of lives in my handbag. But if I want to watch stuff, it's going to be the 12.9-inch iPad Pro that I go to for that. I understand not everybody can afford two iPads, and certainly you and I are very fortunate in that one of them is a business one. At least I know one of mine belongs to one of my businesses, which is wonderful. But if people are curious about that, you can definitely use cheaper iPads for apps like Notability and stuff like that. You don't need to have an all singing, all dancing 2 terabyte 12.9-inch iPad Pro for that. You could get the original iPad Pro from a refurb store or secondhand somewhere. Make sure you get it from somewhere with a good refund policy, just in case there's something wrong with it. Buy it from Best Buy's refurb store. I guess they have one. Over here, lots of stores have a refurb option. So, yeah.
There you go. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you that this podcast is supported by AT&T Active Armor. Look, we all rely so much on our phones these days and are always on them, whether it's live streaming content or catching up with your family on video calls or watching your favorite podcast. There's no room, no time, no space for fraud calls. Fraud calls, they're so annoying and they get in the way. Well, AT&T Active Armor can help you with that. I'm thinking, there are a number of times where I'll be doing something on my device and, you're in the middle of, say, a game, or you're in the middle of a crossword and you're trying to get it in under the wire, and then suddenly a fraud call comes in and ruins everything. I may or may not be speaking from personal experience. Thankfully, AT&T makes customer security a priority, helping block those pesky calls. It's not complicated. AT&T Active Armor. It's 24/7 proactive network security and fraud call blocking to help stop threats at no extra charge. Compatible device and service required. Visit att.com/activearmor for details. Thanks so much to AT&T Active Armor for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today, and also for helping me block those fraud calls. All right. As we do podcasts, it's no surprise that we have some consideration for our voices. I, in high school, was in speech and debate and theater and learned a lot about my own voice and was able to take coaching lessons and understand better how to use my voice to communicate. And through time, have worked on pronunciation and trying to make my accent as neutral as I possibly can so that I'm sort of somewhere in the United States, but does anyone know for sure? And this is an aside, but I think it's a really fascinating aside that before I moved to California, I had done quite a bit of work on taking a lot of the Midwestern pronunciation uniqueness out of my accent, out of my day-to-day speech. But there was one that I had missed, and it was one that was revealed to me by someone whose first language was Mandarin. And as their second language was English, I remember talking to them and they asked me, "How come you pronounce that word like that?" And I said, "What word like what?" And the word was the number 10. And what I didn't realize is that I was pronouncing it tin. Tin. And that I had a tendency to pronounce the E sound, the sound as in a lot of the words that I used. And I sort of had this revelation of going, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've been doing that. And it started to stick out more from other folks that I heard speaking and in my own words. And I still to this day have to, consciously make the choice to properly pronounce it. But I've gotten a lot better over time. But the point is that paying attention to your voice, paying attention to the way that you use your voice, paying attention to the way that you communicate, all of that is important for anyone. It doesn't have to be that you are a podcaster or that you take to the stage for a theater production or anything like that. We all do some level of communicating and can all find some level of improvement should we choose to go down that path. And so there's this great app called Astound, the Astound voice and speech coach that can help you with this. And it does this in a really cool way where you don't have to, hire a speech coach. And so we'll switch over to the iPad here. And I went through the process again, sort of reset this so that I could show how it works. So when you first start it, you can choose the things that you want to work on. So pitch, enunciation, and projection. And there's a fourth one, but I don't. It's speech rate. So how quickly or how slowly you speak. And you choose kind of the things that you want to work on. And then it helps build a set of skills and a set of kind of challenges you can complete to help you. So I'm going to choose, this is interesting. I'm going to choose record because this is going to use the recording as a benchmark to help determine how things have improved over time. So I'll tap record. And then it says the magic of beginnings. With your first recording, you set a benchmark on one you can compare to later. So I tap begin your first recording. Astound would like to access the microphone, of course. And now it says voice potential. Okay, it says make sure you're in a quiet place, tap record, and read the following text out loud. I use my voice to tell stories, to motivate others, and to leave a strong impression. Congrats for your hard work. Confidence is rarely a permanent state, but instead comes and goes. Log how the recording session just felt so you can track your confidence over time. I felt pretty good about that. Tap continue. And then it says practicing helps train our inner self-esteem. Although it may take longer than an external confidence boost, it gives us a deeper sense of stability. Review your recording and fine-tune your awareness for your speech. So I can tap play, and I'm curious now if it will, if you will be able to hear this. I forgot that it also immediately gives you some information. It shows you your tempo. So it says people who speak slowly have a higher chance of being heard and understood. When someone speaks slowly, they indicate that there is no fear of interruption and thereby express a feeling of inner power. Your average pause duration is 0.3 seconds. Increasing pauses by inhaling after a punctuation or power word decreases talking speed. Then it gives you some warm-up exercises you can do to improve upon that. So 182 is above the good range of speaking, which apparently means that I am afraid to be interrupted. I think in the case of a podcast, it's that I don't like dead air. Pitch, it says people who use a wider range of highs and lows express more emotion and are able to convince others of their ideas more effectively. A listener can sense the speaker's emotions through their speech, which helps drive their decision making. So they believe that I'm using 98% of my full pitch range. Amplitude, people who modulate their speech volume engage better with their listeners. They emphasize important words with louder volumes and draw listeners closer with lower volume. And then clarity, people who focus on the clarity of their words, so this is enunciation, make it easier for the listener to follow. The listener can focus better on a story when they're not trying to catch up after being distracted by something unclear. So with that one recording, it was able to determine all of this information, and then I could just tap play. And I can't hear this right now, but I'm wondering if you can.
No, I can't hear that.
Okay. Interesting. I have that turned on. Anyway, that would have been the recording that you just heard me give. So we can go back to the main screen, and it tells me here, oh, look, you can use Siri to help with the vocal warm-up if you want to. And we'll tap on today's challenge. So this is where it lets you know, hey, if you want to, and this is one of the things, this is free to download to kind of get an understanding of what the app can do, but it does cost. So I'll choose Try Premium, and it for a monthly fee, you could pay $6.49 a month to give it a go, $28.99 every 6 months, or annually for $50. So that's a pretty good deal. I'll just do the most popular one since it'll give me a free subscription for 7 days so that I can show how this works. And we'll tap that. And now we are beginning. Again, I've downloaded this before and used it in the past, and I just haven't in a long time, so they've added some new things to it as well. All right, here we go. Three-pointer. Three-pointer is a breathing exercise that focuses on 3 aspects of a one breathing cycle. Breathing in, breathing out, and the pause in between. It says once you fully embrace this pause, it'll be easier to relax your diaphragm and slow down your breathing and speaking tempo. So we'll play the video.
Breathe naturally. Place your palm on your stomach and keeping your shoulders and body posture stable. Notice how your stomach expands as you breathe in and relaxes as you breathe out. There's actually
and it's kind of showing you how to feel your diaphragm and feel your breathing.
After you exhale, don't force
so if you rest your hand on, I think it's the solar plexus, then you can feel your diaphragm.
As you repeat this a few times, let your pause extend.
As you breathe in and breathe out.
Your breath
and really strengthen
and the movement of your chest and stomach should expand.
Your diaphragm. I've got some friends who are classically trained singers, and my goodness, their diaphragms are so strong that they can make what looks like their stomach, but it's really just their diaphragm, come out so far from their body. It's really impressive how strong they are. So it says, how does your breath feel now compared to before the warm-up? I'll say deeper, because if I had done this exercise, I know that it would have felt deeper. And then it says, hey, look, you felt some improvement. That's what you want. And then you can go to the next one. This is a really great exercise that I'll show really quick, and then we can move on. But this is one that teaches you kind of how to help undo some of the tension surrounding your vocal cords, and to help you also better breathe, because breath work is so important when it comes to speaking. So we'll tap play video, and it starts to talk about what you need to do here. So rest your arms comfortably at your sides.
Rotate just your left
and
shoulder
then start
in small
to
circles from the front to the top to the back.
Spiral your
the
shoulders.
Same direction as swimming backstroke. Increase the size of your circles with each rotation and begin to draw a spiral.
Yeah, so we're following through here.
Once you've reached your maximum radius,
stretch
continue
out our
rotating your
shoulders,
shoulder to
maintaining
draw a few
good
more large
posture.
circles. Then, breathing through your nose, move your shoulder to the top. Hold your shoulder and your breath for a few seconds.
And then hold.
And with a relaxing exhale, let your
And then
shoulder drop.
release.
Take a moment
Repeat
to
on the other
compare your
side.
shoulders. Is one lighter than the other? Or is there a temperature difference? Then, to not leave your other shoulder hanging, begin the same routine with your right shoulder. Start drawing tiny circles.
And
rotate your shoulder again in the backstroke
what we're
direction.
doing is we're stretching out all of this
Once
area in
loosened
the
up,
neck,
start
which
drawing your spiral
ends up
shape.
providing a lot of tension to
As soon as you reach your
the
maximum
neck, which of
radius,
course is
continue
the
to draw a
storage
few more
zone of
large
your vocal
circles.
cords. And so by releasing
the
that,
process by
you
bringing
are
your
releasing a
shoulder to
lot
the
of
top
that
with a
tension
deep
there
inhale,
and stretching
a
out that
3-second
area,
holding
giving
of
you
your breath,
more
and a
room
relaxing exhale as you let
to
your shoulder
breathe,
drop.
but also to modulate those vocal cords. And now it says, how do your shoulders feel? Much more relaxed. And so now I'm going to choose, I'll choose go to next here, but we won't go through that. This is one of my favorite ones, working on your jaw muscles, because throughout the day, a lot of us are providing tension to our jaws, and our jaw muscles get very restricted, very tight. And in fact, during the pandemic, dentists have seen an increase in the number of patients coming in for cracked molars. And the belief for why this is because of pandemic stress, pandemic anxiety, leading to less sleep, which leads to more chances for tension during the day, but also at night, more chances for teeth grinding and clenching. So we all probably could use some jaw work, but by going through these jaw exercises, not only will you reduce the tension in general, but over time, your jaw muscles will get stronger and also much more movable, much more, they will, react better. And so you'll be able to open and close your mouth better and provide more projection. It's a really fascinating thing. So that is Astound. It is an astounding voice coach, and it's well worth a look if you're looking for a way to improve upon your breathing, your vocal ability in general, the way that you provide. There are the 6 ones. What is that? Can we scroll in on that on the left there? It shows projection, tempo, pitch, articulation, impression, and then there's an option if you just want to check it out and kind of see what they have. But impression is kind of an interesting one because it tries to help you figure out how your words have an impact on other people. So this is a really neat app that has lots of great exercises for helping you improve upon your speaking skills and your voice in general. So give that a go and check it out. It is called Astound, available in the App Store, free to download with a $6.49 a month subscription, or as I showed you earlier, some other options for subscribing if you want to give it a year of trial. All right, Rosemary, I'm really excited about this next one. Tell me about your next app.
Well, the next app was inspired by a sort of pandemic impulse purchase. So during the pandemic, I was buying some electronics parts, but I was like £20 away from free shipping. And shipping was, give or take the same amount. And so I had a look to see what I could find. And lo and behold, the electronics store had, amongst other things, ukuleles. So I purchased a ukulele to get free postage. And, as you do. And I will admit, this is not a particularly high quality ukulele. It was like $25. So, you get what you pay for with these things, but you can get much better ukuleles. But I thought, now I own the thing, I probably ought to learn how to play it. And I have got some experience with playing classical guitar and acoustic guitar. So, it shouldn't theoretically be out of the realm of possibility for me to just pick it up. But at the same time, sometimes you want a little bit of help. And there's plenty of ways that you can do that. And one of them is with this app by Roadie. Now, there are several great ukulele apps on the App Store, but this is the one I'm using. So Roadie, for people who don't know, they're in the music business, and they tend to make things like tuners, which you can clip onto your device, and then it will tell you whether or not it's in tune. Well, I don't have one of those. I have a guitar tuner, which of course I could use for a ukulele, but I just wanted to learn it. And so I had a look, and they've got this great app which walks you through learning songs. So to start with, it wants you to learn your first song, which is You Are My Sunshine by Johnny Cash. And you can, give it star ratings and so on. And once you've gone through and progressed things, then you can do much more. So to start with, you have to discover your chords. And it wants you to get your instrument in tune. I have dropped mine a few times during prep for the show, but I'm going to say that I'm in tune. And now I need to play a C. Now, this is going to be a little bit tricky because I am trying to do this with my phone at a slightly awkward angle. And it's not picking it up, of course, because it's connected to my computer, and of course because everything is not working, is out of tune because I've dropped my ukulele. So I'm just going to go with, I'll try that one more time and see if I can get it to work. That was a much better note, but it's still not right, as you can see. And it says my ukulele needs tuning. But either way, it will walk me through the chords. It teaches you how to read things. So if you have no idea what this means, then it'll show you, so you've got the neck of the ukulele. I should hold this on the other side of me so that you can see it by my iPhone. And it goes through, okay, so here are the strings. And then, these horizontal lines are called frets and things like that. The orange circle is where you place your finger. And then it tells you using an indexing system, your thumb is 0. You don't use your thumb. If you wrap your thumb around your neck, you get arthritic thumbs. Then, it tells you which finger to press on a chord with. And I think maybe my ukulele is actually strung backwards. That might be the problem. So let's try this one more time. I will hold my ukulele right next to my phone and see if it works. It's jiggling. So it's recognizing it, but it's not working. It was working very well on my iPad earlier. But of course, my iPad is having a day where it's a bit crashy because iOS betas. But I'm exploring that so that when the time comes, everything will be right. But this is a great app. And so I walked through it earlier, and I did learn or start to learn how to play You Are My Sunshine. And I've started learning how I can make chords. What I do like once you've learned it is you start by learning the chords, and then you practice it slowly. Then you practice at a regular speed, and then you practice playing the whole song slowly, and then you perform the whole song.
Oh, wow.
And so it really goes through and it builds it up. And it starts with, this one song. And the tuning option is right here, by the way. So, you can actually tune your ukulele. And it's telling me that's too low. This is because it's a very cheap ukulele and it fell on the floor earlier. It's not too high. Of course it is. So there we go. That's all of that, and you can also just automatically go through things. But once you've learned that, then you can go through the easy ones. So there's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, Happy Birthday, Silent Night, Old MacDonald Had a Farm, and Jingle Bells, of course, is in the hard section. Jingle Bells on most other instruments is considered easy. Captain Jack is pointing out in the chat room, the cheaper your instrument, the more likely it is it will regularly go out of tune. That does usually apply. And for people who aren't watching the live stream, my ukulele is blue with some interesting patterns on it. It is very cheap. I can feel where I've been playing it as well because the strings have gone rough where I've had longer nails. So I feel like I probably need to replace the strings or just get a good ukulele at some point. But this is a great app, and I love the fact that it goes through and it builds everything up.
That's a very cool part.
Yeah, that for me is the key part because so many things, you go, oh yeah, this song sounds easy enough. I could learn that. And then you realize that they're using weird chord progressions or just a chord that you've not heard of before, or it's in a key that makes it really difficult. And what the beauty of this app is they have gone through, they've thought about all of that to make it much easier for you. Which, of course, is what you want if you're learning an instrument. I don't think this is going to get you all the way up to the level of Paul McCartney playing Blackbird, like in, Beatles. But, it's going to get you to a point where you're like, okay, I can now go off and find some ukulele tabs and download them and practice other songs by myself and progress from there, which, that's what you need. You need something to get you up to that level of competence. And that is what this app is for. So that's Ukulele by Roadie. It's free. It doesn't have a huge amount in there, but it is a solid app that is free, and it can do everything that you need.
Awesome. Yeah, like you said, the building upon thing is what's really cool about that. I think that's perfect.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I used to teach English, so I'm very, very familiar with the pick something little and then build lots of things on it approach. And so when I see an app doing that, it's like you with the cooking apps, a lot of things where people are using wet measures instead of dry measures and things like that. You need to know these things. So fortunately for all of our lovely listeners and watchers, we've done the homework for you. So we know that these apps are great.
Yes. And so long ago, I bought a ukulele. Or actually, I think it was given to me as a gift. And this was like way back in high school, and I had customized it and, had started to learn, but I have not touched one in a long time. But just hearing you pluck those strings is just a reminder of ukulele.
Even though
times.
They've gone out of key because it fell over on the floor 3 times.
Yes. And one thing I love, Rosemary, is that you and I recognize this in you, and I appreciate it, is like just picking up lots of different things, lots of different interests. You're like, you know what? I think I might learn ukulele while I'm also learning 4 different languages and all sorts of new skills.
It's good brain exercise. It's good brain exercise. And I think especially after the last year, a lot of us have got to the point where it's like, we're so close. We're so close. Let's just do something to get ourselves through this last little bit. I know I've got my second vaccine booked for August 4th, and I am looking forward to it. So, I'm just going to learn some more languages, pick up some musical instruments, and have a whole lot of fun. And I believe you are going to have fun. Do you have an assistant for this app, Mikah? Because I would love it if you had an assistant for the app.
I did not set up the cameras for that, so I don't have an assistant, unfortunately. Maybe there'll be a future episode where we completely cover pets, and I'll figure out some way to maybe if it's in the studio or something, then we can have we can have Anthony bring in his 360-degree camera, and we can make that happen. But for now, I'm talking about the app called Puppr. Puppr is an app for training dogs that teaches you how to train your Puppr. And there are different categories here. So you can see there's lessons on the left, Puppr Premium on the right. Puppr Premium starts at $9.99 a month. And what it does is it gives you access to coaches. So you can actually have live chats with a real coach who can help you work on these things if you are having trouble getting the dog to respond. So let's say you adopt a dog, and so you've got a new dog. We'll tap on new dog, and you can see the different options here. And we'll start with new dog basics. So we can start with clicker training, because right in the middle of this app at the bottom is a clicker. And you can't hear this, unfortunately, but what is happening is as I tap that, it is making a clicking sound that will let the person will actually let the dog hear that clicker. So if you have a dog that you're trying to train, you can use the clicker to make that happen. And let me see here, actually, because I think I can let you hear the clicker.
You can also just buy clickers as well from Amazon. So once you've done the clicker training or you want to practice it without using the app, then you can also just, buy a clicker and use it. I actually use it for audio recordings because if I mess up, then I can press it next to my microphone. And then in the audio recording afterwards, I can just see this spike so that I easily know that's where I need to go and cut from. And after that, I'm good. So clickers are very useful for all sorts of things, but they're especially useful in pet training, and they're incredibly cheap to buy as well. So once you've finished using the app, or you want to practice and you're out of battery or whatever, then you've got plenty of options to grab one from Amazon too.
Nice. So we'll tap on clicker training here at the top, and it's there. Here are all the steps. Clicker training is a method of training based on positive reinforcement. The clicker is used as a distinct signal that marks the exact moment your dog performs a desired behavior. So I typed in my dog's name for this, and it says, when Henry isn't looking, say his name. See, I said Henry isn't looking, say his name. When he makes eye contact with you, press the clicker and then reward him with a treat. And then you just keep doing that. And that is how a new dog can learn their name pretty quickly. Obviously, Henry is farther along than this. He knows his name. But they have these little tips at the bottom about when you use a clicker, it's incredibly important that you do the clicker right when you need to, because otherwise the dog will start to associate it with the wrong behavior. Mm-hmm. So you can, call out Coodle, Beetlebob, Henry, and then the second Henry looks at you, then you make that clicker sound to make that happen. There's crate training, so it helps teach your dog about being in their crate, and also, as this points out, gives your dog a safe spot of their own so that they know that that's their place. The video doesn't appear to have anything on the bottom of that crate, so that's a pretty uncomfortable crate, but they do show below a dog bed that you could stick inside of the crate. That's the crates that my dogs have. They're like those wire crates, and then they have dog beds inside, and then I have these crate covers that go over the top of them. So it will teach you, if you've got a new dog, how to crate train your dog, which can be a pretty hard one. And so it starts, I love that this has phases. First, you get the dog comfortable with the crate. Then you feed the dog inside of its crate, because that tells them that they can go inside and kind of be in there. And you start by keeping the crate open as they eat their meal. And then it teaches you what you need to do as they walk out, getting the dog used to the closed door over time, having them stay alone inside of the crate as you walk away, and then having them stay alone inside of the crate whenever you're actually out of the house. They can't smell you anymore. So again, this has little tips and an FAQ at the bottom, which I love. How big should my dog's crate be? Because I got to tell you, I've seen a few folks put their giant dogs inside of crates that are so small for them. And it's just kind of, it's like, oh no, why are you doing that? The crates that my dogs have are kind of laughably large for them. But at the same time, given that they're small Chihuahuas, I want them to have the room that they need. And so you can, learn about that. It says add 2 to 4 inches to your dog's length, and that will be how long their crate should be. 2 to 4 inches to your dog's height, and that should be how high the crate should be. But mine, there's a few more inches with mine. Let's go to...
Did you buy the extra large ones for Alsatians or Huskies, Micah, and put your Chihuahuas in them? I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. That's the kind of pet owner you are, making sure your pets have plenty of space. Yeah.
They're little mansions. And then for silly, these are some fun ones in the silly section. And you can see now there's a padlock. So those are the ones that you can unlock by paying for. But maybe a silly one is spin, for example. And it teaches you how to go through this. And you can see I can set the status of teaching Henry the spin. It teaches you have Henry stand in front of you, place a treat at his nose, and lure him in a circle. Work on one direction at a time, and be sure to click and reward at the end end of each successful rotation. After a few successful spins with the treat as a lure, begin to use your finger as the lure. This will help to phase out the treat so that you're not just constantly stuffing your dog with treats. Once Henry is successfully spinning 9 out of 10 times with a lure, begin giving a verbal cue such as spin, right, or left just before he's about to spin. Click and reward the moment he completes the spin. It says assign a different verbal cue for clockwise and counterclockwise so that they can actually do 2 different spins. And it says some dogs will sit or lie down when teaching this behavior. You can fix this by luring slower and moving around with the dog. So you actually walk in the circle with the dog. And so you see, I love that not only does it have tips, but it also has some, hey, here are some places where this could go wrong or where other things might happen that's unexpected and what you can do to help out with that and to improve upon it. And then as you do this, you can change from in progress to mastered. So you can show that you and your dog have mastered that skill, and they get these little challenge rewards afterward. And look, there's a free skill this week called Sit Pretty. Isn't that cute? Aww. The dog gets up on its hind legs. And so it says your dog will maintain a sitting position while lifting his front paws off the floor. It's super charming and great for posing for photos. So that's called Sit Pretty. And then here, as this app also is a way for, what's it called now? I've already forgot the name, Puppr, to sell some stuff. They do have training treats here, and training equipment, grooming toys, and cleaning products and merch. So all sorts of different stuff. If you want to, you can buy directly within the app to help you. And then here's all the badges that you can learn. And I just set this up. So the only badge that they have is Hello Friend right now. But you can add a second dog. So I could add Mizzy to this as well, and then set up their profiles for each of them and teach them these skills. And it's not just these ones. There are also other skills like tell me a secret. Everyone will be wondering what Henry is telling you. This adorable trick is a crowd pleaser where the dog pretends to tell you a secret. I'm going to have to try this one, actually.
Oh, my gosh.
With Mizzy, because she's tall enough to actually do that. Henry would have to tell a secret to like my torso. But Mizzy could get up and actually pretend to whisper in my ear, which is really cute. So yeah, there are lots of fun ones in here. And I think this is a really fun app. And I don't know about you, if you've ever had a pet that is trainable in that way, it can be really rewarding and really kind of delightful to see your dog performing these tricks, or your pet performing these tricks over time. It's like, oh, look what you're so smart. Look what you could do. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yes. My foster cat loved to pretend to want to learn tricks. But for people who've had cats before or have encountered cats, they will be well aware that cats will happily pretend to do anything to get food when they're in the mood for it. And so she would do all sorts of things. And I actually did manage to train her that the top level of her cat tree was perfectly safe by putting treats up there. And she insisted for a long time it was only safe if there was a towel on it. Heaven knows why. And then I caught her napping when I put the towel in the wash. And the look that she gave me was just like, oh, you caught me. Darn it. Now I'm not going to get any treats for this. She clearly had figured that out. But yes, I'm not sure how easy other people find it to train cats. Maybe if you've got something like the Bengal, which are, basically like miniature leopards. They're very trainable and they love, tricks and things like that. But other cats tend not to be so interested.
Yeah. Again, that is available to download for free. In-app purchase starts at $9.99 a month for the extra stuff. It's available on Android as well. So if you'd like to get it there, you can. All right, folks. Up next, it's time for the news. That's right. It's time for the news. Up first, what is that song that's playing? What is that song I hear? Do I know that song?
I don't know. I heard something when my robot vacuum was moving around earlier, and I was like, I recognize that from somewhere. I recognize it. And it took me forever. I did manage to figure it out all by myself, though, which is good because my robot vacuum only did it for a couple of seconds, like multiple times. But there was like weird spacing between it. I think it was just where it was going over my floor. But yeah. It was very strange. Very strange.
Shazam, folks, is what we're hinting at here. Shazam was an independent app that service that could listen to music and then tell you what you were listening to. Apple purchased Shazam and integrated the technology into iOS so that you could say, hey, Siri, what am I listening to right now? And then Siri would proceed to listen and then tell you the song that you were listening to and give you a link to be able to download or add the song to your library from the Apple Music library. Shazam recently surpassed, and I think this is wild, I could understand Shazam being used like 1 billion times in a year. 1 billion seems like a lot for every month. There are 1 billion Shazams taking place every month. So people are asking, what am I listening to? 1 billion times a month. That is a huge number. That's a huge number. I don't use Shazam all that often.
No,
so
especially right now when you're at home. So it's not like you're out places seeing or hearing random music like you used to, at least for me. That doesn't happen anymore at the moment. But yeah, there are apparently lots. And one little tip I wanted to give people seeing as we're looking at this is you can add Shazam to your control center on your iPhone as well, which makes it even faster to get to. Because then you can just tap here and it will listen to whatever music is playing. And then, of course, it will come up with the song afterwards. So you can add that right there, which is really useful. But 1 billion a month is a lot of songs. It's pretty crazy.
Certainly you can add that. Would you want to quickly show how somebody goes about adding Shazam to their control center, how you edit control center on iOS?
Yep, I can definitely do that. I have just opened settings on my iPhone. Let me just scroll down there so that we don't have any extra information we don't need. So inside of the settings app, if you scroll down to the section that's got general and display and brightness in, then control center is one of those. And you can toggle on and off a whole bunch of options here. And if you scroll down to the more control section at the bottom, then you'll find music recognition. It's not called Shazam, but you'll find music recognition, and then you can move it to, wherever you want. And then if you swipe down from the top right on a device with Face ID, if you've got Touch ID there, of course, it's swiping up from the bottom, then you'll see that Shazam is right there. And you can just tap it to use it. And if there was music playing, it would then get on with Shazamming whatever's playing. Unfortunately, my voice is, or fortunately, probably, my voice is not part of a song here. So it's not going to recognize anything there. But yeah, it's pretty great. And customizing Control Center is a great tip. And the fact that Shazam is right there is incredibly useful. It's also, available on the Apple Watch and so on too. I do wonder, Micah, out of these billion, how many of this is our favorite Apple lady mishearing a request and accidentally Shazamming things that didn't need Shazamming. But at the same time, who cares? Who cares? It's a big milestone either way. I don't think there's a significant enough number of accidental triggers for it to be significant here.
Agreed. All right. The next one is about, Apple had announced that they were going to be adding podcast subscriptions to iOS, and that you would be able to use the podcast app to subscribe to different podcasts that offered up the subscription within the app. And it took them a while to launch that, to get that ready, to get that rolling. Now it's available, and 9to5Mac has a little guide showing you how to get that working on the iPhone and kind of what it looks like, what you can do. So there are some podcasts that are taking advantage of this new subscription service, and it walks you through how to go about doing it.
Yeah. And for the podcast, you can support them directly in the Apple Podcast app. This is great. If you're looking around wondering, how you can support Twit or some other ones, then we here at Twit, we've got our own system which doesn't run through Apple Podcasts. So you might find that it's worth checking the website for some podcasts as well. Just because, not everything shows up in Apple Podcasts. Apple doesn't support everything and everybody. But for the things that are already there, then this is a great way to support podcasts. And podcast creators, I'm sure, will appreciate your support.
Absolutely. Ours is available at twit.tv/clubtwit if you would like to check that out. Now, after some I was talking to Matthew Casanelli about this yesterday after what I believe to be some guerrilla marketing on the part of Beats. And I want to mention this again because I thought it was such a brilliant thing but that Renee Ritchie pointed out. So on MacBreak Weekly, Renee Ritchie was talking about the new Beats Studio Buds, which is what we're about to talk about. And he likened Beats to an alt account for Apple. Beats is the brand that Apple can use as an alt account, meaning a place where they can experiment and do things differently from what they do with their main brand, just like people who have alt accounts that post things that they don't post on their main account. I thought it was perfect because I think it was some guerrilla marketing where Beats Studio Buds were leaked to different influencers or celebrities, especially sports celebrities, LeBron James, and there was an Olympic athlete as well. And there have been several reviews of the Beats Studio Buds. Renee, going back to what he had said on MacBreak Weekly, he talked about how he likes these better than even the AirPods Pro because this is the first. So he's done Brazilian jiu-jitsu for a lot of his life. And because of that, has had some, boxed ears. And that's resulted in changes to the shape of his ears. And these are the first earbuds that he can actually put in his ears and they stay there. I think specifically his right ear. And so that's one thing. Great that they fit in someone's ears. I also like that they don't have a stem. And they still offer active noise cancellation and transparency. They have a good amount of listening or of listening time. And they are USB-C chargeable as opposed to, they don't have any wireless charging, but USB-C chargeable, which is really cool. And you can use Siri hands-free with them.
Yeah. So this is great. So I don't know if this is part of Apple rolling out Siri to third-party devices because they announced that at WWDC. And we're actually going to talk about that a little bit later in the news section. But I'm pleased to see that these seem to be pretty darn great. They're a lot cheaper than AirPods, and especially AirPods Pro, which is, of course, really important. And they are tiny. Like, look at them right there. They are tiny. It's great. These are the kinds of things I would definitely lose. I lost my AirPod Pros earlier today. They were just on the couch. They're in a fluorescent pink cover for the casing. I literally don't know how I lost them on a gray couch, but I looked over them like 10 times while I was looking for them, and then it's like they're right here. I felt a bit stupid. I'm really pleased to see though that they are proving that technology can still get smaller. I say that as the owner of a Max iPhone. So even though things can get smaller, I'm fine with some things getting larger. But yes, it's great to see that these are officially out now. That was definitely guerrilla marketing, though. Definitely. Especially they leaked them to a footballer over your side of the pond, Mikah. I don't recognize her, but apparently she's famous. So.
Yes, say that. They kind of went out to different celebrity what is the word now? I can't even think of what they're called. People who do sports. sports people. Celebrity sports people. Athletes is the word I was looking for. I don't know why I can think of athletes.
Oh, there we go.
Then speaking of Renee Ritchie, in a recent YouTube video, he spoke with executives at Apple, including head of Apple Watch, to talk about the Apple Watch itself, but also spoke with someone who knows a thing or two about Apple's kind of wearable, I should say hearable system. And one of those things that they talked about was how AirPods could be used for health data tracking. Oh, this is in part a conversation with TechCrunch, and then in part Renee Ritchie's interview with Kevin Lynch and Deidre Caldbeck. So both places there were conversations talking about how this technology could be used. So how could AirPods, Rosemary, be used to help track health information?
Well, to start with, they've got a whole bunch of sensors in them. And they can tell you, for example, if you're listening to music really loudly. This was actually something that I was playing with a little bit the other day. There's some hearing sensor stuff that's coming to iOS 15, which I've been messing around with a little bit, where, it can suggest that, you've been listening to loud music through headphones a lot recently, and things like that. And of course, we've already seen this decibel counter on our Apple Watches. I was about to pull it up and I realized that if I flip my wrist around, you're not going to see it. So that's not great. But of course, it can also, it sense pressure in your ears. That's how it tells you whether or not the buds on something like the AirPods Pro are too small or too large. It doesn't tell you which one it is. It just tells you that it's not forming a good seal. So, they've got a lot of data theoretically available to them. So they could tell you probably quite a bit about your hearing. And of course, they're already using this unofficially in some ways, because they're allowing you to do things like live listening, where you leave your phone somewhere and you put your AirPods in and you walk off. I used that the other day actually to hook up my smart door opener because I needed to know when I pressed the button whether or not it was making a chiming sound. And they suggest that you get somebody else for this. Well, I didn't have somebody else available at that moment, but I had my iPhone and live listening. And also iOS 15, there's that conversations option where you can use AirPods and it will help filter out other noise, so that you can concentrate specifically on what that person is saying, which is really useful for people who are slightly hard of hearing and in other environments. And from what I gather in the States, AirPods are cheaper than hearing aids in many cases. And certainly if you already own them and maybe it's a temporary condition, your ears are a bit blocked because you've got a cold or something like that, then this is definitely going to be useful. So I'm excited to see what they might come up with here. They've got a whole bunch of data available to them. It would be wonderful to see all of that. I'd love to know, for example, how frequently I completely and utterly forget my iPhone and I leave it behind for several hours in the room and have no idea because I'm busy, doing other things. It's interesting, and let's see what they come up with here and whether or not we actually get all of this because I hope we do. I really hope we do.
Me too. This next story, I spoke a lot about it yesterday on Smart Tech Today and ended up getting a little salty because, and I want to clarify because a tweet went out earlier from Twit kind of talking about it. And the tweet, if you read it on its own, it almost implies that, or it could be suggested that I'm saying that regulation of big tech is a thing that I'm against, and that is not at all the message that I, want to send out, or that I was sending out, or that I would send out. Instead, what I was salty about yesterday, and what I am kind of ongoingly upset about, is Sonos has had this history of not choosing its not making decisions based on its customers and its customers' best interest, but instead on its own best interest, particularly with the way that they were migrating from older Sonos speakers to newer Sonos speakers. And as we talked about yesterday, Sonos eventually rolled back this idea that you could recycle your Sonos speakers by sending them in, but in doing so, you would end up deactivating them. So if you decided not to do that, then they were just bricked. And that really was not great. And as we've pointed out, they did roll that back, but that happened in the first place. And then in the second place, they make they've made these decisions as they've gone from kind of being a company that was like high prosumer to just prosumer in general. As they've kind of encompassed that whole market, they really kind of cast aside their thoughts for that high prosumer market that was their original customer base. And I just don't like that, because I'm not a Sonos customer myself, but I've got a lot of people that I care about who love Sonos speakers and who had a lot of struggles when that whole change happened. And so that already had me salty about them. But then as Matthew and I kind of talked about, with this new thing, Sonos was one of the companies that testified against Apple and Google and Amazon and others in antitrust concerns, and specifically related to how Siri was going to start being available on third-party devices. and how the future of the smart home looked. And as we discussed, it seems like Sonos was ready to make this argument before they had all of the information that they could about what Matter was going to provide for the smart home and what that meant. And when Matter came to be, sort of the Zigbee Alliance got rolled into a larger group that handles a lot of different smart home functionality, and Matter came out as the thing that was going to connect all of these disparate communication methods and different companies together. And in doing so, it sort of made it possible for any of these companies to partake in the smart home of the future. And they still brought up Matter as part of the discussion and tried to say that it's just Apple and Google code. And what's fascinating to me is that it is almost as if they have misunderstood exactly what Matter is versus what Thread is, which is a subsection sort of Matter. It is its own communication protocol that was built out of Google's Nest, and Matter is a larger thing built with the Zigbee Alliance and is an open source project. And so there are all these things that show that it's not this kind of like walling off of this ecosystem, but that's the argument that Sonos was trying to make. And as I kind of suggest, it's as if they had their arguments to make, and then someone was like, oh, but Matter really seems to be leveling the playing field. So they made up this hand-wavy thing to say, well, Matter is just Apple and Google code, and we don't know what that's going to mean. So we also don't like that. And that really kind of upset me because I don't think that it was a true and honest depiction of this, new way of doing things at all. And overall, Sonos is just one of the companies that's talking about, that is, a witness in the antitrust thing or about whatever they happen to be. I don't know what their exact title is in terms of this lawsuit, but yeah, that upset me. There's the clarification. There's, my feelings on that. Rosemary, I'm curious to hear your overall thoughts on that.
Well, I have right here a Sonos Roam. Okay, so this is Sonos's latest battery-powered speaker. It's an alternative to the Move, which was I think it was $400 when it originally came out. And this is considerably cheaper, and it's great for what I use it for, which is most of the time it lives on a Qi charger in my hallway. And then when I want to go take a shower or, a face mask or whatever, I pick this up and I take this with me to the bathroom because it's battery-powered. And here in the UK, you can't have a regular socket in your bathroom. It is considered a safety risk. So I can't stick a HomePod Mini in my bathroom. If a HomePod Mini was battery powered, I could. What do I want on this? I want Siri. I don't want to have my phone with me or my Apple Watch. If I'm in the shower, I'm showering. I don't want to have my phone with me and things like that. I'm relaxing as well as getting clean. So it would be great if I didn't have to futz around with Alexa or the Google Assistant on this, because I don't want to do that. I don't want those assistants in my home. And the way that Apple has said that they are going to allow Siri on third-party devices is through a HomePod or HomePod Mini, which means you're going to need a HomePod or a HomePod Mini in your home in order for that to happen. And I really feel like Sonos are being very selfish here and going, yeah, but this is not how we want to do things. I would love to know statistically from Sonos's customers how many of them only have Sonos devices, exclusively Sonos, and would not be willing to purchase a HomePod Mini. Because I bet a lot of people would be willing to purchase a HomePod Mini and stick it in a rarely used room or something like that doesn't already have speakers if they don't have one. Or they're like me. They've got two HomePods, two HomePod Minis. They would like to add another HomePod Mini, and they've got one Sonos device, one singular Sonos device. I did have another one before I gave it to my parents, but it didn't have Siri support, which is why I gave it to them, because I wanted Siri on a speaker in every single room. I can live without it in the bathroom. I've picked up, IKEA sells some Sonos branded speakers without any voice assistant integration, unless you hook it up, to whatever. That's called the Symphonisk range. So I actually picked up a Symphonisk remote for the IKEA Symphonisk speaker, but I paired it with my Sonos Roam. So the Symphonist button is in my shower because I don't care if I kill a less than $20 button. And I know that these are water resistant, but better safe than sorry with these things. So I've got the button in my shower so I can easily control that. But, it would be much easier to just shout to Siri when you're, in the middle of trying to get shampoo out of your hair. It would be really great if you could, if Sonos could just let me have Siri on this device, They could caveat it. They could, make a song and a dance about how, the Amazon Assistant and the Google Assistant work better. I don't care. I just let me have this because it very much feels like a little bit like a kid checking their toys out the pram. I mean, that's overblown, but it very much feels like it's our way or the highway. And I feel like that's not a great attitude for their customers because their customers are going to be missing out.
Agreed.
And also,
that's the thing that's so bothersome about this is that their whole argument is that their customers will miss out because of these companies doing what they're doing. And I'm like, no, what you're trying to do is keep your customers from getting all of the options possible. You're not arguing to open up the playing field more. You're saying that you don't like that Apple and Google and Amazon have these voice assistants and that customers might want to use them. And as I was saying to Matthew, Sonos could make its own voice assistant if it wants to and then put that out there. And if I use it and it doesn't work great, then I'm going to keep using Siri or Alexa or the Google Assistant. Like there's to argue against these technologies that are already there just because they got there first. That's what it feels like. That's why I don't like the argument that's being made. It feels like they're saying, we didn't get a chance to do this, and so we don't like it that you've done it. And that's something that we're arguing against. Even though the whole time these companies are doing their best to open up this technology even more and let more people be a part of the program. So, that's where the salt comes in. And so I'm shaking it over my head over and over again, and we'll continue to until we see a change here.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I love this speaker. It's a great speaker. It supports AirPlay 2. I have this. Most of the time it's sitting on a Qi charger, so there's wireless charging. If you get the Sonos one, it's magnetic, but it's also therefore more expensive. It's not MagSafe. It magnetizes specifically to the bottom of this. But most of the time it's just sitting on that in my hallway, but it means that I can just grab it and take it to the bathroom, when I have my shower in the mornings, things like that. And it's a great speaker for exactly what I wanted it for. And I would recommend them, but don't get it if you're expecting Siri support because it feels like we're not going to see it right now, which is a real shame.
Agreed. Absolutely a shame. All right. I think that brings us to Shortcuts Corner. Folks, this is the part of the show where Shortcuts expert Rosemary Orchard takes your requests for shortcuts and creates them. Rosemary, I'll go ahead and read this Shortcuts Corner request, and then you can tell us all about it. So Joseph writes in to Rosemary, your tutorial worked. So this is a bit of a follow-up with one exception. I made to also turn on some lights and a fan. The exception is that at a certain time of the day, I have automatic shortcuts that run. One ran in the middle of my workout, which pops down a notification window. Wah, wah. There's probably a way to program that to not happen, but I'm thankful for what you gave me. So an automatic shortcut is interrupting the process that they had set up, and Joseph is needing help with that. So do you want to tell us first about what was the original request and then kind of what your thoughts are here?
Yeah, so Joseph's original request, which we answered last week, was when he opens exercise apps, can he have Do Not Disturb just automatically or something stop notifications coming in? So I suggested that when you open an app, I'm just going to pop up my iPhone here, you can create an automation for apps. And there we go. There's apps. So you can do it either for when an app is opened or for when an app is closed. You're going to want two automations for that, though. One each for opening and closing. You pick your app. So, for example, 1Password. And then within the actions, you can have Do Not Disturb, which is coming up as focus mode for me because I'm on iOS 15. So we'll just skip that. So basically, Joseph's asking if there's a way that he can stop automatic shortcuts from showing a notification. So every time there's a notification from an automation here, or every time there's an automation on iOS and it runs automatically, it will pop up a notification. I'm just going to see. There we go. There's one right there. When Rosemary's iPhone 12 Pro Max connected. So that was actually last Saturday. Wow, that some of these notifications are ancient. I think iOS 15 is having.
I have that problem too with
day.
iOS 15. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, it'll pop up these notifications, and for whatever reason, Apple has decided, in their infinite wisdom, there's some air quotes involved there, that both these notifications should show, even if notifications are always hidden in Do Not Disturb, and you can't turn this off. And you can't turn off notifications for shortcuts. Now, there is /was/might be a way to work around that using downtime and blocking notifications through that. But I'm not going to recommend it for the very simple reason that it doesn't always work. And secondly, every time you reboot your phone, if it was working before, you have to go ahead and do the whole process again. So unfortunately, Joseph, there is no way to fix that, which is a real shame. I really wish I could help there. We didn't have any other requests for Shortcuts Corner this week. So, Mikah, I wanted to take an app cap that you gave us a while ago, and I wanted to show people how I'm using it. Because a while ago, you told us about Signals for HomeKit, which is where you can make lights flash whenever something, happens. And then you can attach this to automations. Well, I've had a little problem recently hitting the snooze button. Snooze buttons are great. Hitting the snooze button 3 or 4 times in a row, not so great, especially when it means that you just have to wake up, pull on whatever, and roll out of bed and go to work. So I have boosted my snooze button. And I've boosted my snooze button, wrong one, with Signals for HomeKit. So I've got an automation here when any alarm is snoozed, okay? So you can attach this specifically to your wake-up alarm. But I have it set to any because I only use alarms when I sleep, but I have various different alarms. I don't adjust my sleep pattern every single day. Like I have to get up early tomorrow because I've got a haircut in the morning and things like that. And I don't want to adjust the sleep stuff every single time. So I say when any alarm is snoozed, then I want it to run my get up signal. Okay, and I've got a couple of different signals here. So I'm just going to leave that as get up. And so this means that whenever I snooze my alarm, my get up signal runs. So I'm just going to pop back into home signal or signals for home. Sorry, I keep saying that wrong. There it is, signals for home. And here are my signals. And now you can see bedside lamp left and bedside light right have a flash effect for 3.5 seconds. And this is great because these are the 2 lights next to my bed. And what happens is they both flash really brightly for 3.5 seconds. And you know what, Mikah? That is punishment for hitting my snooze button. It wakes me up and it solves the problem because it means that I don't hit snooze anymore because I'm like, oh, I don't want bright lights. I don't want bright lights. I'm going to get up. So it's definitely more stick than carrot. But it is brilliant. So thank you for that app cap. I'm using it literally daily at the moment as a bit of a punishment for myself. But it works. And these are just one of the amazing things that you can do with automations in Shortcuts. So there we go. I just thought I'd follow up on that one.
Well, thank you for following up on that one. That's a really good tip that folks can check or can use for themselves if they'd like to. Yeah, that Signals app is really neat, and it's kind of one of those things that I've wanted from the beginning, and that you could do with other things, but to be able to do it in iOS on its own is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to quickly, while we're here in Shortcuts Corner, this isn't quite shortcuts, but it is something that stuck out to me as something that folks might want to check out. Just learned about it yesterday on Smart Tech Today, and it is called, and now I've got to remember the name of the app. Yes, it's called Voice in a Can, and you can go to voiceinacan.com. And so I'll include a link here in the show notes so that other people can find it. But this is a pretty neat thing where if you mainly use Alexa as your kind of voice assistant for your home, but you wish you could control Alexa on within your Apple ecosystem, then you should check out Voice in a Can, because what it lets you do is install an app on your Apple Watch that lets you talk to Alexa. So yes, on It's AliXA on your Apple Watch. It's a standalone app, so you don't even need a phone to be able to do this. On your iPhone and your Mac, you can talk to AliXA and do all of the integrations that you have, the smart home integrations that you have. Ask AliXA for different things, and then this is showing. And look, it even shows you the information right there in the Voice in a Can app. So it's a pretty cool little app here that will let you use AliXA on your Apple Watch. Just really neat. I didn't even know that it was possible. And now that I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So yeah, it's available in the App Store. And we just learned about it yesterday as Damien shared that this was a project they were working on. And yeah, I wanted to point it out. So it reminded me, apps that you don't necessarily think you can, or things that you maybe think that you can't do on your iPhone, your Apple Watch, what have you. Hey, there could be an app out there for that. And in this case, there was. And it's available for you to check out. All right, let's move on to feedback. The first bit of feedback comes from Joshua. Joshua writes in, over in Google Pixel Land, though maybe just in the US, there's a call screening feature to get rid of most spam calls, or of more spam calls. I just got a new to me spam call, a real Australian number. A lady robot said that this is Amazon.com calling to confirm a purchase of an iPhone 11 for $799 something something. I'm sure if I'd held on to challenge, they would have wanted to confirm my account details, but with on-device Siri coming, it would be nice to have Siri Concierge or Siri Bouncer for calls. Maybe iOS 16? iOS did try to figure out a location for the phone number, and I can't just silence no caller ID. They've gotten wise to that, and they are usually real work calls. I would love this. So Google has its own thing that it does. It's not quite for spam calls right now. It's for setting up an appointment with, at a, what am I trying to say, at a hair cutting place or, different system or different things like that. But the idea of having Siri answer the phone for you and be able to kind of handle these calls. I will mention, I personally use, I do use AT&T Active Armor, who is a sponsor, but I do use that for my phone. I also use an app called RoboKiller. And RoboKiller is kind of an extra line of defense that will help you sort through your calls, but it also takes an active stance against spam calls by letting you set up well, they're not even robotic. They are voices and skits that seem real and will talk to someone on the other end of the phone. So it kind of wastes their time as they are trying to waste your time. So it'll say, hello, and then the person starts speaking, and then it kind of gives a pause, letting the other person speak, and then it starts to say more. And you can set up a bunch of different ones. I think I've got one that's Morgan Freeman. I've got one where the person can't hear who's on the other line. I'm sorry, hold on, I need to. And one where it's a BuzzFeed quiz where it'll start out as a normal conversation. They'll be like, I'm going through this BuzzFeed quiz right now. Can you help me figure it out? And then you can go back and review these spam calls that took place and have a little laugh if you want to, or just move on without them. So there are apps that do something like this concierge service or bouncer service, but I love that idea of having Siri Intelligence take care of that.
Yeah, I really love that too. And I just want to take a moment to, if people don't know how to silence unknown callers. Now, I would say if you're thinking about doing this, make sure that none of the people that you need to contact ever use unknown caller. I know over here, my doctor's surgery, whenever a doctor calls you, it comes through as unknown caller or, no caller ID or whatever it is. So if I turn this feature on myself, then it's not going to work. But I will just pop up my iPhone screen here. So over in settings on your iPhone, inside of the phone app, and you just need to scroll down, and then there is the option to silence unknown callers, and then you can toggle that on, and it gives you a little explanation here as to what that is. And I'm going to just toggle that straight back off, because if I leave it toggled on, then if my doctor calls me, then I'm actually not going to know, because it will just completely and utterly bypass it and send them to the answer phone, which is perfect if that's what you want. So this is a great way of using that feature. Just make sure that none of the services that you use, like garages where you get your car serviced or, checked or things like that, doctor surgeries, insurance companies, things like that. Make sure none of them who are legitimate use this number, use no caller ID, because that would be a complete and utter pain in the neck for you. So that's how you can turn that on and off.
Nice. Another great tip there to check out. All right. What is up next? This is from Slick Brain, who says, I keep hoping that I can... Oh, how funny. I got a call from somebody named Rosemary. That is definitely a spam
not
call.
Me. Yeah, that's not me.
Rosemary. Wild. Anyway, Slick Brain writes in, I keep hoping that I can not have 10 apps for the different IoT devices I have. Is HomeKit moving that way? Slick Brain, I'm actually a little confused here because this is one of the things. HomeKit was part of the process that Apple requires for HomeKit-enabled devices is they have to, HomeKit devices have to be able to be completely set up within the Home app without any requirement for a third-party app. So from the get-go, you should be able to take a device that you buy that says works with Apple HomeKit, scan the code or NFC the code or type in the code, whatever it happens to be, and set up that device in the Home app without ever launching a third-party app. That is a requirement in order to do works with Apple HomeKit. Now, I imagine, Slick Brain, that you are a little bit talking about how for some things, for some functionality, you will have to access that outside of the app. To set up certain things, you have to access that outside of the app. And I'm with you there. I totally understand. One thing you'll be happy to hear is that Apple is not only pushing, but continuing to improve upon its inbuilt firmware update process so that app or product developers will be able to tell Apple, hey, there's a firmware update for this product, and you can do that firmware update from right within the Home app. That has historically not worked very well. I have had trouble with that in the past and ended up having to go into the apps to do the firmware updates. But as I said, just as of this last WWDC, that firmware upgrade process is getting better and a little bit easier. So I think that one of the things is that third-party or product manufacturers don't want to relinquish control. By you using their apps and signing up with an account, then they can have more information about you. But they are slowly realizing that playing ball with Apple in terms of home stuff means that the best way to go about it is making sure that you can just set up the app or set up the device within the Home app. And so products like Eve they're almost all in. They are all in, but you can use the Eve app for some stuff. But really, it's super simple to launch the Home app and set up an Eve product. Belkin released it's called the Waymo Stage Controller, and they actually just say, like, it is written in the instruction manual and it's on their site. We have nothing, like, we don't touch this at all. You install it with the Home app. That's the only way you can install it. If you hit plus in the Belkin app, the Waymo app, and try to use it, it's not going to work. You have to install it via the Home app, and the firmware update will come via the Home app. You buy it, and the rest is up to you. And then there are some cameras. I think Logitech makes at least
Logitech's
one
camera and doorbell both don't. There's no app for that. It's just HomeKit stuff. And it's pretty good. I have to say, I have apps still installed from other companies. Like, for example, I've got the Meros app right here. And it's controlling, for example, the light strip behind me. And I can do some things in this which are not supported by HomeKit itself. So, for example, this flashing sequence of lights, the party theme, it's not particularly fast. I don't know if I would use that as a party. Oddly enough, relaxing is considerably more stressful. So I'll stick that back on working. But this is the only place I can get firmware updates right now. And as you can see, this app, well, it looks like it was written to be exported to run on Android and iOS. And surprise, surprise, almost certainly was. Because, it's a pretty cheap brand. But you know what? These lights behind me, I talked about them on Smart Tech today. They're really cheap. And they're great. They work really well. So I'm okay with sometimes needing other apps for things, especially things where stuff requires a hub and you need to pair stuff with the hub before it works. So I'm thinking Philips Hue bulbs. I'm also thinking the IKEA Trad-free things. So they have blinds, they have speakers, they have lights. Oh my gosh, they've even got air purifiers now, but those aren't smart. But you could attach it to an IKEA smart outlet. And I use the smart outlets everywhere because they're incredibly cheap compared to everything else. And they use Zigbee rather than Wi-Fi, which is better than having hundreds of devices on my Wi-Fi network. But things are definitely, HomeKit wise, and I'm thinking also Matter wise, are moving away from you needing another app to do things. But there's definitely still functionality that HomeKit doesn't support. Like, for example, changing through a sequence of colors. That's not something HomeKit supports at the moment, which is a shame. I can see why, because they try and keep it simple. And we've seen for years, there's the great Home Plus app, also the Eve app that Mikah mentioned, that allow you to do things with your HomeKit devices that you otherwise just straight up couldn't do. But it's actually HomeKit under the hood. All it's doing is exposing things that you can't see in the Home app. And it's kind of baffling to me that Apple don't show that. But, maybe there's a grand master plan in progress, or maybe they're just going to leave it to third-party developers to take up that space and offer the more complex things because they can't see good ways to do that themselves at the moment.
Yeah. All right. That is going to bring us to the end of the feedback section. We will, of course, have more feedback to answer next week. And that means it's time for our app caps. App caps. I'm bringing back an old cap, one that I made as I am out of new caps to wear. I need to order some more new ones. I know. This is a cap I crocheted. This was before I learned to knit. I learned to crochet, and this was one of my first big projects that I took on. And yeah, this is my crocheted cap. And Rosemary, you are wearing a fantastic cap on your side. Can you tell? I forgot to say, this is the part of the show called App Caps where we wear caps of some sort atop our heads to honor our app picks of the week. Or I should just say our picks of the week, because sometimes we do products. These are the apps or products that we're using that we really enjoy and want to share with you. Or maybe it's something, that we just came across that we think is interesting and exciting. In any case, Rosemary, tell us about the cap atop your head and your pick of the week.
Well, the cap on top of my head is my pink sombrero with the lovely little white pom-poms around the edge. No, this is not traditional. And I've turned the brim down. I am going to turn it up so that people can see my face because otherwise this might get a bit confusing for people. And, today I talked about some music apps, and Mikah, you talked about voice apps, and I thought, let's round my part of the show out with another music app pick, and that is by Roadie again. So I mentioned before, Roadie make apps for, they make these tuners that you can clip on devices. And if you have a tuner that you can clip on a device, then you can pair that with Bluetooth to this app. It's called the Roadie Tuner, and it's a guitar tuner. But you can see this isn't a guitar that I've got selected here. This is a ukulele. And indeed, in the settings here, you can actually go ahead and see a whole bunch of things. You can do beep sound. You can turn on and off auto string select. I'm actually going to turn that off. And if you select the instrument, then you can see there's guitar, standard ukulele, low G ukulele, baritone ukulele, mandolin, and a banjo. So if you've got a banjo and you need some help tuning it, then this app can do that for you. I do not have a banjo. I have brought back my ukulele for this. Woohoo. And I'm going to try and tune it because as we saw earlier, it was out of tune. So I've selected the string, and yes, I have indeed selected the correct string. I was just following the string patterns there. And if I do this, then you can see it's saying it's low. So I need to tighten that string a little bit. And that's now way too high. So I need to try and find the sweet spot. Now, as we mentioned earlier on the show, this is a cheap ukulele. It can't make up its mind. There we go. So it's getting closer. No, that's definitely off. So I might try a different string. I know that string is quite finicky to tune on this particular ukulele because I spent a lot of time doing that earlier. There we go. It's getting closer. The problem is picking up my voice as well because it's just listening for sound. So obviously, I actually had something open on my screen earlier that was, I didn't realize it was playing music. One of those things, my brain monofocused on what I was doing, and it did not occur to me that there was music playing. It took me forever to tune my ukulele with this, and I've been using this for weeks. But you've got an instrument view. You've also got a chromatic view, so you can see, if I select a note, then it tells me apparently I'm speaking in D ish, F sharp, and so on. It's quite interesting to do it with your voice. If I was doing that, or if it could hear you, Mikah, then that would be quite impressive. No, it's not going to do it for me. No, okay. Well, it was doing it before I tried to do that. But I like the fact that you can select a specific peg. I like the fact that you can turn on auto string select. If you've got an instrument that generally stays fairly in tune, then you're going to want that because it will save you from tapping on your device. And so you can just go through the strings and check them. My guitar, for example, is great at staying in tune. And so, I have that on for that most of the time, but my ukulele does not stay in tune. So I probably need new strings for my ukulele, actually. I should just buy new strings and sort it all out then. But that is the Roadie tuner. It's completely free. And if you have a 4 or 6 stringed instrument, that not string instrument as in violin and cello type string, then you can use that. There is also a bass tuner application, which is a separate app, also available from Roadie, which will allow you to tune your bass. Nice. They've got plenty of options. They've got left-handed mode, right-handed mode. They can do the whole lot. It's a great application and it's free. So if you need to tune, there you go.
Sweet. All right. My app pick of the week is one that will that this may shock you because yet again, Mikah is talking about video games. I shock myself with this. So Amazon has for a while had a service called Amazon Luna, which is a game streaming service that has been in private beta for a while. I was able to get early access to it. And as part of the Prime Day launch, Amazon is making it available to Prime members free for a limited time, and then we'll release it with the subscription. So I wanted to talk about this because if you're a Prime member, then you're going to be able to check this out. There are several games that are included with Amazon Prime, and then there are some games that you can get by subscribing to Ubisoft Plus, which is a separate company, a separate game manufacturer, where then you get access to a lot more games. So you can see I'm scrolling through here. There are many a game. You can sort them by the rating that they have. And there are some pretty well-known titles like Assassin's Creed, there was another one up at the top. Control, which I know was a pretty popular game. Far Cry, which people are probably familiar with. And then there's one that I've been playing because I beat Divinity Original Sin 2, and I continued to crave an action adventure RPG. And so I've been looking all over trying to find one. There aren't a lot that are just built into the iPad, so I had to kind of look elsewhere. I'm currently on my iPad, but I am streaming a game, or I'm about to start streaming a game so you can see. I want to talk a little bit about how Amazon Luna works. So this is actually just a Safari window that I've added to my home screen, and so it kind of takes away the bars on the outside to make it look more like it's just a full-featured app. And I have paired the Amazon Luna controller with this service. So this is what's really neat, I think, about the Amazon Luna service and several other of the game streaming services, is this controller is not paired directly with the iPad over Bluetooth. It is connected to my Wi-Fi network. And so it is sending communication to the Luna services and to the game, and it all just works together, immediately picking up my controls and knowing what it needs to do. And why this is awesome is because that means I could immediately then launch Luna on my Mac, or if I had something else that supported Luna, I could launch it there and pick up right where I left off without having to do any sort of repairing process or anything like that. As long as the devices are both on the same Wi-Fi network, you can immediately start playing again. So I'm going to launch Immortals Phoenix Rising. I'll tap play now, and then it's going to load. And it says, this game may require to use touch to select items on screen and enter text. So you just choose got it. And then you say resume game. And then it'll connect as it needs to so that it knows that I'm connected via Ubisoft. And it'll go through that process. It usually doesn't take this long. So hopefully Ubisoft servers aren't down or anything like that. Doesn't look like it. That's good. And then it will load Immortals Phoenix Rising. And now you can see that the game has started. This is just a warning that, hey, there's some stuff that's very flashy and could get in the way. Can you hear the audio?
No, it's there. It's just kind of low.
Okay, I'll turn it up a little bit.
You're a man of good
audio
tastes,
playing
by
right
the
now.
way, Micah.
Say again?
You're a man of good tastes, by the way.
Oh, thank you. It says press any key to continue. So I will press a key on my on the controller, and then it's loading. It's very quiet. I wonder if it's because I have... All right, and then it's checking if there are any updates to the game. So, of course, you've got your normal kind of updates, but the way that this streaming works is that all of the processing is happening on the server, and it's essentially just streaming video to your device. So it's like watching a video, but you're controlling it. So you can make a pretty nice game that lets you, access even more than you might be able to otherwise. So it says by connecting Ubisoft Connect, then you can do some other stuff and get some other rewards. I'm going to choose maybe later, and I'm going to choose load, and we'll load the game at 1 hour, 6 minutes, and 15 seconds. Hold down A to load, and then we can start. Is it still really quiet, or is it louder?
Yeah. I can barely hear it.
That's good.
Okay. For some reason, this is just particularly quiet in relation to everything else. All right, so now you can see I'm this character, and I mean, first of all, look around here. We've got particles in the air. Look at the way that the light scatters off of the pond here. I'm jumping. Oh, and by the way, this controller has rumble stuff built into it as well, so you've got lots of movement. And I'll pick this up. I was in the midst of working on this. We'll drop that. And I need to go get another rock. I'll hit left button. It appears it won't let me have, that rock there. So let me jump back up here, and we'll go find a rock that we can use. There was originally a rock here, and then I accidentally threw it into the lake.
Is that the rock that you were just looking at in the lake?
Yeah, I think that was the one. Unfortunately, you can't get the one out of the lake. So I'll take this, and we will walk back this way.
I find it amazing that you can kind of use magic to carry things, but you can't use magic to get stuff out the lake.
Yeah, I'm going to call that one a little bit of an oversight on the programmer's part because I definitely think that I should have been able to get that out of the lake. If I sprint, I will use some of my stamina, so I'm not going to sprint right now. And I'm kind of wondering, this rock might be too heavy. You can see there's a feather, and that feather means that, hey, we want you to use a light touch. But it appears that that's enough, and then we could go inside of this. Now, I've actually been through this little room before. Basically, you jump down into that little portal, and it takes you into a little puzzle game, kind of. You walk around, and try to use that puzzle. I wonder what happens if I hit this. I did not do that before. And then I can look around and see if anything changed out here. It gave me another stone that I could use. And I can hit Y to bring that over. And then if I wanted to, I could drop that over there instead of this. I'm just going to use the right trigger to throw that. Okay, so it wants me to go to the Temple of Apollo. So I'm going to head this way. And again, this is a resource management game a little bit. You can see that my stamina goes down. I want to hit B to dive. And, what is that? Is that a crate? Yes, it is. So I'll grab that, and then I want to use swim up to get back to the surface before I run out of stamina. Uh-oh. Okay, I almost drowned. You really have to watch that stamina bar, which you can start to build up over time. And as we're going through this game, what's happening is I am gaining some of the different powers of the gods, rather. The whole premise of this game is that you are a mortal, not immortal. You are a mortal, and you are trying to help the gods. That phoenix is trying to fight me, and I need to use. He came to the ground, or it came to the ground. Where did it go? And I can dodge and get out of the way. So I'm going to use my arrows. Right button. Oh shoot, I used an arrow of Apollo. So those arrows are ones that you can actually control as you fly around. And here, let's try that again, except this time I won't use the expensive arrows. I will just use right trigger to shoot. Oh man, this one is getting me. I'm gonna watch out for that. And let's try to attack. There we go. With my wings, I can kind of fly through the air, and we'll try to just beat this enemy real quick here. There we go. And now we've defeated that one, and we gain some little crystals that we can use. Your health slowly regenerates, which is nice. I'm not a very good gamer, so these kinds of games are actually not typically mine. I like the turn-based games if I'm going to play versus this. And I'm going to crouch down and try to sneak up on this enemy if I can. We'll get into the grass here and hide, because a sneak attack can be a really good thing if we're able. And actually, I know what we'll do. Oh darn, they saw me. And this whole time, as I said, I know I'm belaboring the point a little bit now, but I am playing with a controller that's connected over Wi-Fi to my local network, and that is taking my controls and putting them into the game as I'm playing. There are lots of different games then that you can play, so I'm looking forward, without having the system that would normally do it, being able to play Assassin's Creed or one of those other kind of big name games that usually require some pretty powerful some pretty powerful consoles to be able to play. So this lets you, I'm playing this right now on a 11-inch iPad Pro right now, which is pretty wild. As I am going along here. So I don't think I can pause while there's actual enemies, so I need to...
Can you just swipe up to the home screen, Micah?
I probably can. Let me just see here. Okay, I can pause. So that takes us out of it. But that is Amazon Luna for Amazon Prime members. You'll be able to check it out for free as Amazon Prime Day kicks off. And so then you will be able to make use of Prime or of Luna, and then once you get Luna, then you can go through and see the different games that are available for you to play. So yeah, Amazon Luna just go to amazon.com/Luna to check it out. And then you'll be able to learn more about it. The Luna controller costs extra, but you don't need the Luna controller in order to play. You can play with touch controls for some games. So the Luna controller gives you more access to more games because it will let you play that. And then, as you can see, look, there's a television there. There's a Mac there. And I assume that if you are on a Windows computer, maybe, I'm not sure, but I would assume that it would also show you how to play these games like on a PC as well. But yeah, you could launch Luna on a smart TV and be able to play it right there on the big screen if you want. So that is my app cap, and that, folks, means that we have reached the end of another episode of iOS Today. If you have questions or feedback or shortcuts, corners, requests, you can send those to iostoday@twit.tv. You can also tweet at us. It's with the hashtag AskIOSToday, or you can message us right there in the Discord chat with your requests, questions, etc., and we'd be happy to answer them there. If you'd like to hang out with us live while we record the show, well, you just tune in every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific at twit.tv/live. And thank you to those of you who joined us live. The best way to get the show, however, is to subscribe or follow the show by going to twit.tv/iOS, where you can subscribe via Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, Spotify, YouTube. In audio and video formats, you just click subscribe to audio or subscribe to video and choose your provider, and you're well on your way. Rosemary Orchard, if folks want to follow you online and check out all your great work, where do they go to do so?
The best place is rosemaryorchard.com, which I'm pleased to say that I found some time today to start redoing, and I'm migrating everything to a whole new CMS there. So everything will break shortly. You can also follow me on micro.blog and Twitter with the username Rosemary Orchard. Mikah, where can people find you?
You can find me at Micah Sargent on many a social media network, or head to chihuahua.coffee. That's CHIHUAHUA.coffee, where I've got links to the places I'm most active online. If you would like to support the network and also get some pretty cool stuff, you should head to twit.tv/clubtwit. There you will learn about Club Twit, which is a $7 a month subscription service that makes you a member of Club Twit. What do you get? Well, you get all of our shows ad-free. So completely free of ads, every single show that we have on offer. You get access to the Twit Plus bonus feed, which gets you stuff you're not going to find anywhere else, before show, after show, everything in between. And the most exciting thing, as far as I'm concerned, access to the Twit Discord server, where you can join other members and us hosts, and we all get to have a laugh and a good time chatting throughout the week and during the show and in between and everywhere else about all things Twit and all things tech and all things everything. Frankly, we've got lots of different channels in there. So $7 a month. Join us, join the fun, join the club, join the party, join the dance. Twit.tv/clubtwit. And I also want to mention something we just launched on Twit as of yesterday. It's sort of a relaunch, sort of a new launch. It's called Tech Break. And this is a way, those of us who've worked at Twit for a while as producers, as hosts, and everywhere in between, I've kind of talked about how there wasn't a place for us to go where we could quickly and easily release, publish, and launch bits of information as they break, as news breaks, as a new app comes across that you're super excited about, that you just want to easily talk about. And, there might be a time where I get a new product in the mail and it's long before I'm going to be able to talk about it on the show, but I just want to do a quick unboxing and a quick little chat about it. Or, a new update for an iOS beta launches and some cool new feature is there, and you just want to quickly be able to talk about it. Where do we do that? Well, there wasn't a place until now, and it's called Tech Break. You can go to twit.tv/break to subscribe to this. If you are a Twit Bits subscriber, then you are already part of the fun. Twit Bits will still be published there, but along with that, you're going to start to see some new content that is getting released there, where we've got just some fun little bits of information. I believe Jason recently published something. Yeah, so there's this. What is this? It's some sort
Looks
of
like a
it's
synthesizer.
a synth. Yeah. So Jason's showing off the synth, and you can see it's just a quick video talking about it, unboxing it, peeling it, and playing around with it. So it's not super in-depth or anything like that. That's the whole point. These are just quick little bits of information that you might want now. So definitely give that a go, especially if you find yourself low on time and you just want to see some new cool stuff or hear about the latest news. Tech Break. twit.tv/break to subscribe. Look, he's making food while he's waiting for maybe the firmware to install. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in this week, and we look forward to chatting with you again next week. Until then, this has been and will continue to be iOS Today. That has been and will continue to be Rosemary Orchard, and I have been and will continue to be Mikah Sargent. Goodbye.
Hey, if you like tech news, but you also like hearing about it from the people who are actually writing the stories, well, I've got a show for you. It's called Tech News Weekly, and it's me, Jason Howell, along with my co-host Mikah Sargent. Every week, we invite the people making and breaking the biggest tech news stories from around the web onto this show to talk to us about it. It's a lot of fun. You should check it out. Tech News Weekly can be found at twit.tv/TNW every Thursday. We'll see you there.